Sarah, you know, hearing that audio, I'm just wondering how that made you feel. You've been asking for it. I mean, this takes you inside the plane where your partner Philip was, a voice that he may have heard. How did you feel when you heard those words from the pilot?
Well, it's a touch back to help me make this feel like it's real as opposed to just a story someone else is telling. And I think part of the request of families, or the request by families for this kind of information, also things like the video clips from the airport, helps us to make this feel more factual, I guess. So it's great progress that Malaysian Airlines has released this to us now, and we're very thankful that they've done it.
And Sarah, the air search, as you know, they say is now over. Do you think that they're giving up?
Well, it does feel that way, but I also understand it. I mean, the likelihood of there still being floating debris is pretty small, and I would rather see those assets used in some other way. However, the pullback in general on a global level of pursuing finding this plane is troublesome because this is still a very serious security concern for every single person who gets on an airplane.
It is. And I mean, do you think at this point, Sarah, that I mean, we've talked about whether they're looking in the right place, you and I have, but you know that private Australian company has put out those images that what it says could be wreckage from the plane. You actually had a chance to talk to the director of that company. What did he tell you? And do you think that that actually could be the plane, that they're looking 3,000 miles in the wrong place?
Well, I hope it is not the plane. But I do believe it's worth looking into. I mean, we're talking about, you know, either an Indian or a Chinese Navy vessel with some sort of sonar capability to go to that spot. It's only about a 2-hour distance from the coast of Bengal. It is not a huge leverage of assets, but it would confirm or deny a reasonably plausible lead. I mean, this company identifies concentrations of metal for their business. And if indeed it's a boat, well, then we know that their technology works, right? And we could perhaps leverage their technology to find other concentrations of metal. So we don't want it to be the plane, but we do believe it's worth following up on.
I mean, Sarah, when you talk about you don't want this to be the plane, at this point, I mean, have you been able to get your heart around the fact that the plane may have crashed?
Well, both my head and my heart have realized since day one that that was a likely outcome. But, you know, as long as there's that tiny chance that there could be any survivors, we owe it to them to continue to look. And beyond the ability to find the plane, so whether it's to be reunited with our family members or to say goodbye to them properly, we still have to find the plane. And, you know, then we can start to understand what happened because, you know, we don't ever want another plane to vanish like this. We don't ever want anybody else to have to walk in our shoes.
Do you think that they may never find the plane? I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, a few weeks ago I wouldn't have thought I'd asked you that question, but do you realize that that could be the fact now?
It could be, and that's probably the scariest possible outcome at this point. Because what do the families do at that point? Except for continue to push. And I think we're quite united at this point. We have more than 300 family members signed on to our organization, and we will leverage every resource we have to continue the investigation and to continue to try to find that plane.